Single mom desperately needs 500 medicine for daughter. Then the CEO revealed an amazing gesture. Jessica's heart raced as she read the message on her phone for the 7th time that night. The glowing screen illuminated her tired face, the words twisting like a knife in her chest. She felt like she was drowning in a sea of bills cluttering the kitchen table, each envelope a reminder of the weight on her shoulders. 8-year-old Lily was upstairs, blissfully unaware of her mother's worries. Jessica could hear her daughter's laughter, the sweet sound ringing through their small home. But Jessica's heart was heavy. She knew that laughter masked the daily fight for survival. Their life revolved around 2 part-time jobs, and the endless chase of making ends meet. But now, with the revelation that Lily's life-saving medication cost a staggering $500, that chase felt more like a race against time. Should she pay for the medicine or keep the lights on for another month? The question echoed painfully in her mind like a ticking clock. Clenching her fists, she glanced at Lily's favorite drawing taped to the fridge, a rainbow, vibrant and hopeful. "Mommy?" Lily's voice floated down the stairs, pulling Jessica from her thoughts. "Can we have pancakes for dinner?" Swallowing the lump in her throat, Jessica quickly plastered on a smile. "Sure, sweetheart. Let us whip something up." But as she flipped the pancakes, the heat of the stove couldn't warm the cold fear inside her. The next day, with a deep breath, she mustered the courage to reach out for help. She posted on social media, sharing their story not for attention, but from a desperate hope that someone, anyone might understand. "Single mom needs help, my daughter's medicine 500. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into a blur of anguished faces and unanswered calls until the phone buzzed, breaking the silence of despair. It was Tom Miller, the CEO of a local pharmaceutical company. "I read your story. I want to help," he said, his voice warm and compassionate. Jessica hesitated. Was this a dream? Instead of just funding the medication, he shared news of a new charity initiative aimed at supporting families like hers. The weight in her chest lifted, even if only slightly. But as news of Tom's kindness spread, so did voices of skepticism in the community. Was this a proper solution to the real problems they faced? Some neighbors grumbled, arguing the help was just a band-aid on a systemic wound. A fundraiser was planned, set to confront these glaring issues, but inside, Jessica felt the grappling fear of her pride clashing with her need. At the fundraiser, would the warmth of this new hand extend beyond momentary relief? Would she dare to look her neighbors in the eye, feel their judgments, as they navigated this conversation about charity and dignity? The night was approaching, and with it, the hardest choice of her life. Would she cling to her pride or find comfort in community support? With her heart racing again, she glanced at the mirror, anxiety swirling. Would this act of kindness really change their lives? As voices buzzed around her, she wondered if they were close to discovering the truth of hope amid struggle. Jessica stood before her mirror, her heart pounding. The words of Tom rang in her ears. His offer felt like a lifebuoy tossed into a sea of uncertainty. But the anxiety gnawed at her. Would accepting help make her feel even more powerless? As night descended, she made her way to the fundraiser. The local community center, usually a hub of laughter and celebration, felt heavy with tension. Families gathered in clusters, debating the moral implications of charity and aid. Each conversation buzzed like static in her ears, loud yet indistinct. Dressed in a simple black top and jeans, Jessica felt out of place among the shimmering lights and the well-dressed attendees. Could she stand boldly, shaking off the whispers that seemed to follow her? She wanted to be a part of something bigger, but every glance felt like it was judging her choices. "Hey, Jess!" A familiar voice called. It was Mia, her friend from the coffee shop where she worked part-time. Mia rushed over, her smile radiating warmth. "I'm so glad to see you here. How's Lily? Jessica felt a wave of relief wash over her as she hugged her friend. She's good, starting to understand that things are a little tight. Mia's face softened. You're doing your best, and everyone knows that. We're all here to help, even if some don't express it. The two moved toward the stage where Tom was standing, preparing to speak. Jessica observed him, his charisma lighting up the room. As he started to talk about the new charity initiative, the anxiety bubbling inside of her shifted. His words were hopeful, promising a genuine commitment to helping families navigate the harsh realities of life. Suddenly, she didn't just see a CEO, he was someone who understood the struggle. But then, she noticed the murmurs again. A couple of women stood nearby, whispering, their expressions skeptical. Another publicity stunt, one scoffed. How can these big shots understand real problems? Jessica's chest tightened. She kicked her mind into overdrive, imagining how many others might feel the same way. Was she walking into a trap, in front of people who only saw struggles as failures? Slowly, bites of doubt crept in. Would she become the poster child for that charity, a face for help, but still at the mercy of others' perceptions? Just as she began to retreat into her thoughts, Tom's voice pierced through her chaos, calling for families to share their stories, to transform this initiative into a real connection with the community. With frustration washing over her, she felt her heart race. This might be her moment, but what if it just opened up more scrutiny? I can't let them see me break, she whispered to Mia, who held her shoulder tight. Then don't break, Mia replied fiercely. Use this moment to show them your strength. Inhaling deeply, Jessica straightened her back. The warmth of her friend's support ignited sparks of courage within her. If she stepped forward, it wasn't just about her, this was for Lily too. A choice to let vulnerability shine through strength. The microphone beckoned her like a flame through the darkness. Jessica fought her nerves and walked to the front, a swell of emotions tightening as she gripped the stand. Taking a breath, she scanned the faces around her. Would they see her defeat or her resolve? As she opened her mouth to speak, the room hushed. With vulnerability in her voice, she began to share her story. Would they embrace her truth, or would judgment pour like rain? The audience listened, and Jessica could feel the air thickening with tension. No turning back now. But just then, a loud shout rang from the back, slicing through the silence. Why should we support her? It's just another needy case. Jessica's heart sank, knowing what came next could define her. What would she say? The moment of truth hung in the air, and Jessica gathered her courage, her voice steadying. Jessica took a breath, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. The shouter's piercing words echoed in her mind like a gunshot. She had come here to show her strength, yet it felt like the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. The moment hung in the air, the murmurs of the crowd mixing with her nerves, a storm of judgment raging just beneath the surface. Just another case, the words burned like a brand. But the truth was, she was more than a case. She was a mother, fighting for her daughter. All those sleepless nights, all those struggles, they had to mean something. She focused on the cluster of faces in front of her. Some confused, some wary, but she saw a few sympathetic ones too. Jessica steadied herself, her hands gripping the sides of the podium. The faces blurred slightly as tears threatened to spill, but she swallowed hard, willing herself to stay strong. I understand why you might think that, Jessica began, her voice rising over the whispering. You might see someone like me and think I'm just a statistic, just another needy case. But I'm here tonight to share my real story, not just the headlines. The crowd hushed further. The tension felt electric. For my daughter, Lily, who is just 7 years old, she continued, tears forming at the corners of her eyes but not spilling over. She has suffered from a rare illness. It means endless doctor visits and expensive medication. I'm here not only for my daughter but for every family navigating these waters. I'm not asking for pity. I'm asking for understanding. The words poured out of her, a river of honesty. The initial shock of the interruption faded away, replaced by an atmosphere that felt more like solidarity. A flicker of hope ignited within her. This isn't just about me. It's about every parent out there feeling lost and alone, questioning if they'll be able to provide what their child needs. For a moment, the crowd was silent, contemplating her words. Jessica could sense the piercing gazes were softening. She pressed on, muscles tense but fiery with purpose. I'm terrified every day. I'm scared that I won't have the money for Lily's medicine, that I'll have to tell her no when she needs me most. But I also know that I'm not alone. We are in this together. The audience began to nod slowly, a ripple of empathy spreading among them. The woman who had shouted earlier stayed quiet, her face unreadable. Jessica took that as a good sign, pressing her advantage. Every single dollar helps. It may seem little, but hope costs less than you think, she urged, her tone shifting from desperate to empowered. It's about choices. We can choose to uplift each other, to show our community that we care. I'm ready to take that step, but I need your support. We need each other. As she finished speaking, the silence erupted into applause, a raw and heartfelt response. Mia's face beamed, her hands clapping wildly. Jessica felt a rush of warmth as she soaked in the affirmation, her heart swelling with something she had thought lost, belief in herself. Tom stepped forward, his expression serious but gentle. Jessica, your courage is inspiring. This community will stand behind you. And as a start, I'll pledge $5,000 to your cause. Gasps echoed throughout the room, followed by a tide of murmurs. But why? A voice called from the back, halting the rising excitement in its tracks. Jessica turned, feeling a battleground forming once more. What would happen next? Would the skepticism return? Or were they really ready to embrace the truth and support one another? The emotion thick in her throat, she faced the crowd yet again, drawn into the crossroads of hope and doubt. The tension crackled, her heart racing with the uncertainty that lay before her. As she stood there, one question loomed larger than all others: what would it take to truly change hearts, to transform doubt into action? Would they step up, or would fear win once more? Jessica felt the silence stretch, thick with anticipation. She searched the audience, their faces swirling with confusion and curiosity. The voice from the back rang out again, its tone sharp. Why should we believe you? Her stomach churned. Doubts flooded her mind. But as she scanned the crowd, she noticed more than just skepticism. She saw encouraged expressions, people willing to listen. The applause had changed the atmosphere, but she needed to ignite something deeper now. Because I'm real, she said, her voice calm yet assertive. I'm not a charity case. I'm a mother fighting for her kid. I have been there at 3 a.m. when Lily woke up crying from pain, and I have held her tiny hands through the struggle. That we can change the narrative together. There was a moment of silence, the murmurings quieted, each person weighing her words. Jessica took a step closer to the edge of the podium, trying to break the invisible barrier between her and them. I have met others like me, she continued, her heart racing, real families facing real difficulties. We don't need pity, we need action. This place can become a beacon of hope. Together, we can create an impact that ripples beyond just our own worries. A woman in the front row raised her hand. But what do you need? How can we help? Jessica felt warmth flood her cheeks. Someone was taking the bait, stepping into the light. Thank you for asking. It starts small. It can be as simple as sharing our story with others or donating whatever you can. Even if that's time, resources, or a few dollars. The room shifted again, hope pooling where fear once reigned. People were nodding, whispering amongst themselves. Jessica saw a single tear run down Mia's cheek. She could tell her daughter felt the weight of everything too. I know money doesn't solve everything, Jessica pressed. But right now, it means the world to me. It means I can give my daughter her medicine without second-guessing if I could buy groceries next week. It means we can breathe. Tom's voice cut through the noise once more, steady with determination. Everyone here has the power to help. Let us not just pledge our support, let us put it into action. The applause grew again, and Jessica's heart soared. Behind her, she heard other members of the audience starting to stand and raise their own hands, pledging their support. It was beautiful chaos, a blend of hope and urgency that ignited the room with energy. But just then, her heart sank as the woman who had shouted earlier stood again. And what happens after that? What happens when the funds run out? What happens next? The question hung in the air, a dark shadow cast over the glowing moment. Jessica's breath hitched in her throat as the crowd looked expectantly at her. Could she actually weave a plan that extended beyond just today? Could she promise a way forward after this moment of solidarity? In that charged silence, the weight of responsibility pressed down on her. What if her answer wasn't good enough? What if the hope fluttering in the room was fleeting? With a deep breath, Jessica put her hand to her heart. We dream bigger, she stated firmly. We start a foundation. We create a network where families support one another. Together, we ensure no child suffers alone. This can be more than one help, it can spark a change. She sensed curiosity on the faces in front of her, a willingness to imagine something more than herself. But a tired voice piped up again, "What makes you think you can lead that?" Jessica looked around, feeling the sweat on her brow. Was she ready to step into a role like that? It was one thing to fight for Lily, another to take on a whole community's needs. And yet, as she glanced at the faces around her, courage bubbled within. Because I'm not just fighting for Lily, she said, gathering strength. I'm fighting for all of us. But before she could finish, something unexpected happened. The doors swung open, and a figure entered, a man with a briefcase. Jessica squinted, unable to discern if he was the kind of person she could count on, or if he was just another shadow in this uncertain path. As the whispers surged through the crowd and heads turned with curiosity, one thought raced in her mind. Who was he, and what could he mean for their cause? Would he be a glimmer of hope or yet another weight dragging them down? The man stepped into the room, and the crowd's energy shifted. It felt electric, a tension palpable enough to draw gasps. He was tall, wearing a neatly pressed suit, and his briefcase gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Jessica could see fingers pointing and murmurs sparking like firecrackers through the audience. "Who is that?" she heard someone whisper nearby. Jessica's pulse quickened. Could he be someone influential? Someone who could turn their hopes into a reality? Or was he here to cast doubt, to pull the rug from under all her plans? She tried to read his face, but it was as stoic as polished marble. As he made his way to the podium, Jessica swallowed hard. Excuse me, she said barely above a whisper. But a million thoughts raced through her mind. Why are you here? He paused for a silent moment, looking out across the audience. The murmurs faded into an expectant hush. Finally, he spoke, his voice deep and resonant. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Aaron Thompson, the CEO of a local pharmaceutical company. The crowd collectively leaned in, intrigue palpable. I was made aware of this event today, he continued. And I felt it was important to come here myself. Jessica's heart raced. Was he going to offer a donation? Was he here to support her? The very idea made her flush with hope, yet fear gripped her. What if his intentions were not pure? I understand the struggles many of you face, he added, his gaze locking on to Jessica's. Specifically, families like yours, who are fighting for their children. I want to help. A ripple of anticipation spread through the room. Was this the moment she had been waiting for? So, we are pledging to match every dollar donated today, he announced, and gasps echoed through the audience. But on one condition, we help launch your foundation. The clarity of those words washed over Jessica like a wave, lifting her spirits higher than when she'd first stepped onto the stage. The idea was blooming from an uncertain seed of hope into something extraordinary. Lily squeezed her hand, rooting her back in the moment. What does that mean? Jessica called out, her heart pounding louder than her voice. It means, Aaron continued, that I will provide the initial funding to help establish a network for families in need. We'll build resources and make sure no child has to suffer alone. As gasps turned into applause, Jessica felt the ground beneath her shift. But how? Was all she could manage to ask, caught between disbelief and excitement. It starts with your story. Jessica, you have put a face on this struggle. It's powerful, he replied. Let's harness that. With your voice and the support of your community, we can create something that lasts. Laughter erupted, hands clapped together, tears flowed freely. Jessica looked around. Hope was transforming the room, weaving through the crowd like sunlight breaking through clouds. She could feel adrenaline pumping in her veins. This was happening. But then, amidst the joy, a thought swept through her mind. If they started this foundation, would they be able to sustain it? What would it mean for her and Lily? Suddenly, all her dreams tangled with fear. Wait! She called out, trying to capture the runaway moment. This is amazing, but what happens when the challenge gets too big? How do we deal with that? The crowd quieted, shifting to see how Aaron would respond, and for a moment, it felt as though time stood still. The question hung heavily, echoing around the room, forcing Jessica to confront the very fears she had tried to push aside. Would they really be able to carry this together? As the silence grew a touch louder, Aaron stepped closer, intensity in his gaze. We won't back down. We'll keep dreaming, even when the doubts weigh us down. But remember, Jessica, it's not just your fight. It's ours. A deep breath filled Jessica's chest. Could this truly be the start of something monumental? Would her dream of supporting families evolve into a movement that changed lives? With emotions swimming around them like unchained waves, she glanced at Lily, whose eyes sparkled with burgeoning hope. Together, Jessica whispered, sitting on the edge of decision. But suddenly, the chaos outside the doors interrupted them. A loud commotion erupted outside, and the room turned toward the noise. What now? The fear of anticipation gripped Jessica. What could possibly shatter this moment of unity? Hadn't they come far enough to deserve a chance? The moment hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. Jessica felt her heart pounding in her chest, a drumbeat of apprehension. What was happening outside? The clamor grew louder, filled with shouts and the sound of something heavy being slammed against the walls. Aaron furrowed his brow, his demeanor shifting from confident to concerned. Stay calm, everyone. Let me check on this. He turned toward the doors, the uncertainty in his eyes reflecting the fear coursing through Jessica. She squeezed Lily's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of her daughter's small fingers against her palm. Mommy, what is going on? Lily's voice wavered, trembling with confusion. I don't know, honey, Jessica replied, doing her best to sound steady. Behind her reassuring words, panic fluttered in her gut. They had finally reached a turning point. Could this all be undone in a moment? The doors swung open, and two uniformed officers marched in, faces set with urgency. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. Were they here for someone? Her mind jumped to the worst possible scenarios. Was it a parent in distress? Or had someone's health crisis reached a breaking point? Is there a Jessica Bennett in the audience? One of the officers called out, scanning the crowd. Jessica's heart took a nosedive. Yes, that's me. She stood, adrenaline surging through her. The room was silent, everyone looking at her with wide eyes, weighing her response. We need you to come with us, the officer said, his voice firm yet filled with an undertone of compassion. It's urgent. The collective gasp from the crowd echoed in her ears. Muffled whispers filled the room again, curiosity mingling with concern. Jessica's mind raced. What could it be? As she started toward the officers, Lily's grip faltered. Mommy! Her voice cracked, fear etched across her little face. Lily, it's okay. Just stay right here, Jessica soothed, but her heart was racing. I'll be back. She turned away, pushing through the stunned crowd, but every step felt heavy, like wading through water. The officers led her outside. The commotion still raged, voices clashing in a chaotic symphony. As they reached the doors, Jessica caught sight of a woman on the ground, crumpled like a discarded doll. Her face was pale, panic in her eyes as paramedics worked quickly around her. Brenda? Is that you? Jessica exclaimed, recognizing the woman from their neighborhood. Brenda was the mother of a child who had been facing similar battles. Jessica? Brenda gasped, as one of the paramedics held a blood pressure cuff up to her limp arm. I didn't know who else to call. What happened? Jessica's heart sank further at the sight. I got a call from the hospital. They've run out of her medication, the one for her seizures. I couldn't find a ride. Please, we need help. Brenda's voice cracked with desperation. It hit Jessica like a punch to the gut. Here was the same battle she fought every day. The urgency of the moment came crashing down on her. They needed the very support Aaron had promised. Okay. We'll figure it out. Just hang on. Jessica felt a surge of determination course through her veins. She turned back toward the audience, all their faces twisted with concern, rallying them. We need to raise the funds for the medicine. Now! A hand shot up from the crowd. I can donate! A voice shouted. More followed. Me too! As the room buzzed with energy, Jessica's heart soared. In the face of chaos, they were united. They had a mission, a chance to turn their fears into action. But as the medical team loaded Brenda onto the ambulance, a shadow of doubt crept into Jessica's mind. Could this moment of strength hold against the fears that tucked themselves away in the corners of her soul? She turned back to the officers and checked on Brenda's condition one last time, a knot tightening in her chest. We can't let her down. What if they succeeded in raising the funds but fell short when it mattered most? As the ambulance drove away, their need echoed in her heart. Would this drive for change be enough to make a real difference, or would fear drown out hope? Once again, the room vibrated with a blend of excitement and tension, and Jessica knew this fight was just beginning. Would they pull together to tackle the greater struggle ahead? Jessica's heart jumped as the crowd surged with determination, voices rising into an enthusiastic chorus. Each pledge made her feel a little lighter, a little more hopeful. But the image of Brenda on that ambulance weighed heavily in her mind. Even with this newfound momentum, the question gnawed at her, what if they failed? What if we don't raise enough? She whispered to herself, her throat tightening. But she couldn't let that doubt seep out. She needed to focus. All right, everyone, listen up. She called, raising her voice above the chatter. The crowd quieted, eyes fixed on her. I know we can do this. We need to set a goal, a clear amount. I believe we can raise at least 5,000. That will cover Brenda's daughter's medication and then some. Nods from the crowd made her heart swell. This was it. The beginning of something bigger. A chance for change. As she outlined her plan, she felt the energy around her shift. People were scribbling down ideas, running to find their phones to call friends and family. There was a collective feeling of purpose. But just as excitement bubbled in her chest, a voice came from the back of the room, cutting through the buzz. We can't just talk about money. What if the medication isn't effective? What if she doesn't get better at all? A man stood, face grim, arms crossed. His opinion hung heavy in the air. Jessica blinked, the argument crashing against her like a cold wave. She opened her mouth to respond, her heart racing. But we can't let fear paralyze us. We have to try. The room shifted again, uncertainty festering like a dark cloud. I understand, she continued, determination seeping back in. But what choice do we have? Brenda needs us right now, and we can't let her daughter become another statistic. Someone in the front raised a hand, visibly emotional. My sister has epilepsy too. If it was my family, I'd want to fight for them. Suddenly, a wave of stories began to spill out. Others shared their own struggles, giving voice to fears and hopes. The raw vulnerability of it all made Jessica's heart swell again. Their shared experiences drew them together like a sturdy bridge over churning waters. Let us rally, she urged, the energy shifting again. Let us make calls, set up fundraisers, anything it takes to help Brenda. We're not just numbers, we're a community. Applause erupted, and she basked in a moment of victory. But amidst the cheers, she felt the tight knot in her gut return. She wanted to believe this would be enough to rally and risk everything, to push aside doubt and grasp for hope. Suddenly, Aaron stepped forward, his voice steady and clear. Let me help. My company can match the donations, up to 5,000. Jessica's breath caught. A ripple of excitement surged through the room. Does that really mean a woman started, her eyes wide, but was cut off by the enthusiastic cheers that followed? Yes. We can do it. Jessica felt the warmth of hope flickering, alongside the growing anxiety of responsibility. Aaron, thank you, she exclaimed, sending him a grateful smile, though the worry still hovered. Did they fully understand what was at stake? But now wasn't the time to dwell. They needed a plan, and they needed it now. Okay, each group will coordinate a small fundraiser. We'll set a deadline for next week. Let's say we aim to raise as much as possible by then. We've got this. And all around her, something beautiful began to unfold. People paired up, ideas ignited, creativity flowing. The energy buzzed in the air like a live wire, each person stitching together a tapestry of hope and determination. As the night rolled on, Jessica could feel the tide turning. But still, doubt nagged at her. What if they fell short? What if Brenda needed help and they didn't have enough? With the sense of urgency thickening around her, Jessica's heart raced. She glanced down at her phone and saw a notification pop up, a message from Brenda's daughter's health tracker. It was a reminder about medication, a stark reminder of the urgency of their mission. With her heart pounding, she made a decision. We're going to shift gears a little, she said, loud enough to regain everyone's attention. Let us also reach out to the local news. If we can get our story out there, we might inspire even more people to contribute. Sam's hand shot up again. That's a great idea. We might even catch the eye of someone in a high place. What do you think about getting local businesses involved? The atmosphere shifted. The hum of excitement swarmed around her, momentum building. But deep down, Jessica felt her pulse quicken. Would this all be enough? As the laughter and chatter continued, the fear loomed just beneath the surface. They were fighting a raging battle, but was it a fight they could truly win? In that moment, one question burned in her mind: what if this wasn't just about Brenda but about something bigger? As the crowd rallied seamlessly around her, Jessica wondered if they were on the brink of creating real change, not just for Brenda but for everyone who's ever faced a daunting health struggle. Would this spark of hope ignite a movement? Or would they falter when faced with reality? The following days blurred into a whirlwind of activity. With Jessica at the helm, the community united in a shared purpose, each person bringing their unique talents and resources. She watched in awe as flyers were printed, bake sales organized, and social media campaigns took off. The local coffee shop offered a percentage of their profits for the next week. It was thrilling to see how far everyone would stretch to make a difference. But still, the weight of doubt sometimes crept back in, heavy and suffocating. Each time she imagined Brenda, fearful and uncertain in that sterile hospital room, her heart would sink. Every evening, Jessica pulled out her phone, refreshing the fundraising tracker, her stomach twisting at the sight of the little green bar inching upward. Progress was slow but steady. As she sat down with a cup of coffee one crisp morning, she received a message that made her heart race. It was from a local news reporter named Mark, who had seen their posts and wanted to highlight Brenda's story in a segment. This could really help, she thought, her pulse quickening with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Jessica, this is huge, Sam exclaimed when she shared the news with the group. If the community sees Brenda's story on Sunday's broadcast, it might just change everything. We could see a surge in donations. They all gathered that evening to brainstorm questions Mark might ask. Jessica felt both exhilarated and terrified. What if they didn't get the response they hoped for? What if the segment sparked interest but not enough action? Each would have stole a piece of her enthusiasm, but the supportive voices around her pushed her through the fear. They bounced ideas off each other, crafting a narrative that highlighted not just Brenda but the spirit of the community. This isn't just about a single mother's struggle, Jessica said, standing at the front of her living room, bit by bit, her heart igniting with passion. It's about all of us coming together for something bigger. It's about hope, resilience, and love. It's about fighting for those we care about. Those words hung in the air, electric with possibility. The room filled with cheers and encouragement as the group worked into the night, rehearsing their messages, making signs, and preparing for the broadcast. As the sun began to set on the day of the interview, Jessica felt a sense of urgency heightening. What if they faced backlash? What if no one decided to help? The weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders. She clenched her fists, willing away the doubts, reminding herself of the courage shared among her community. Remember, this isn't just about Brenda, she repeated quietly to her reflection in the mirror before leaving for the studio. It's larger than that. Funneled into the small studio, Jessica saw Mark set up his camera and the lights illuminating soft beige walls. The anticipated excitement buzzed in the air. She took a deep breath, feeling every heartbeat, the adrenaline surging through her veins. Okay, this is it, she whispered to herself, the weight of hope heavy within her. She was determined to embody the spirit of the community behind Brenda, to project their strength into the words she would share. When Mark approached, his friendly demeanor put her slightly at ease. All right, Jessica. Let's talk about why you and the community have come together for this. As the camera rolled and she began to speak, she poured her heart out, her words flowing with raw honesty. It was then she felt something shift in the air. The doubts started to dissolve, leaving room for a new sense of belief in their fight, and the support surrounding them, and in Brenda's journey. As Mark concluded the segment, he looked at her and said, "That was beautiful, Jessica. I think you might have just inspired more people than you know." Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A donation notification. Her heart raced. What did I tell you? The community hasn't forgotten. Sam grinned, but Jessica's mind swirled with what lay ahead. What if their efforts lit a fire in someone who could make a substantial difference? What if this really was the start of something bigger? As the segment concluded and they all celebrated with relieved laughter, the questions lingered like an ember waiting for a spark. The night wasn't over yet. One last thought made her pulse quicken as she glanced at her phone again, notifications pouring in. But one stood out among the rest. A message from an unknown number. Tell me more about Brenda's story. I may be able to help. With her heart pounding in anticipation, Jessica felt the electric thrill of possibility roll through her. What kind of help could this be? What if tonight was just the beginning? Jessica's fingers hovered over her phone, heart racing as she stared at the message. It was so cryptic yet full of promise. What if this is a game changer? She thought, excitement blossoming alongside her anxiety. Without wasting another second, she typed a quick response, her fingers dancing over the screen. Thank you for reaching out. I'd love to share Brenda's story with you. Can we chat? After hitting send, she took a deep breath. The seconds felt like hours, each beat of her heart echoing her hope. What if this unknown person had the power to bring in significant support? She could feel the momentum building, and it fueled her spirit. Meanwhile, the celebrations from the studio began to subside as the group started to trickle out. Sam, ever the optimist, leaned over with a grin. Any new donations? Looks like that segment did wonders. Yeah, but I got something else, Jessica replied, lifting her phone. A mysterious message. Someone wants to help, but I don't know who they are. Sam's eyes widened. You have to find out who they are. That could be exactly what we need. Pacing around the room, Jessica wrestled with her thoughts. I need to make sure it's legit first. After everything we've gone through, I can't afford to get my hopes up over nothing. It was late, but the air was thick with excitement as they continued to reflect on the broadcast's impact. News of their journey was spreading, and every meaningful conversation brought them closer to their goal. Jessica's mind flickered back to Brenda. She had to stay focused for her sake. The next morning, buoyed by restless anticipation, Jessica sat at her kitchen table with a steaming mug of coffee and her phone set to speaker mode. She dialed the number back, heart pounding as it rang. Would they actually pick up? Hello? A smooth, calm voice greeted her. Hi. This is Jessica, from the community support group for Brenda. I received your message about wanting to help. Yes, Jessica, it's nice to speak with you. My name is Alex, and I saw your broadcast. Brenda's story really touched me. Jessica felt a rush of warmth spread through her. Thank you so much, Alex. It means a lot that you reached out. We're trying to raise funds for her daughter's medicine. Every dollar counts, but we still have a long way to go. I understand completely. I might be able to help with that. His voice was steady, but she could feel the hope bubble up inside her. I run a small charity initiative that focuses on supporting families like Brenda's. We'd like to offer a matching donation for every dollar raised in the next week. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. Are you serious? That would be incredible. Absolutely. Let us turn this story into action. I believe we can make a real impact together. As they discussed further arrangements, Jessica felt the heavy weight of doubt start to lift. Maybe this was the breakthrough moment they desperately needed. She hung up, her spirit soaring, ready to share the good news. Sam! Everyone! She called out, gathering the group once more. You won't believe what just happened! They huddled together, eyes glistening with anticipation. Alex from the charity wants to match our donations. This could double everything we raise. Cheers erupted. In that moment, they could all sense the shift, the burgeoning hope, the palpable excitement. Jessica beamed, feeling the strength of togetherness in a powerful surge. But as joy filled the room, a thought flickered in the back of her mind. What if it wouldn't just be about raising funds? What if Brenda's journey inspired others on an even larger scale? What if they could spark change in a way they hadn't even imagined? As the team brainstormed ways to spread the word, Jessica's phone buzzed with another notification. A message from Alex. I'll be visiting next week to discuss further details. Let us make this a campaign that lasts. Her heart raced once more. What did Alex have planned? Would they truly reach more people than they ever hoped? The thrill of the unknown danced within her as she thought of Brenda. With every heartbeat, Jessica felt her resolve strengthen. They were just getting started. But Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that more challenges lay ahead. What if public attention brought out the critics? What if the pressure became too overwhelming? The day arrived, a day filled with hope and uncertainty, bursting with possibilities yet edged with fear. Jessica paced her small living room, glancing at the clock every few seconds. Alex would be here any minute. The idea of him could bring the relief they desperately needed, as well as new pressures. When she heard the knock, her heart leaped. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door to find Alex standing with a warm smile, holding a stack of papers and a gleaming folder. Hi, Jessica. Welcome. Come in, she said, stepping aside. Little did she know the steps they'd take today would carve a new path for everyone. As the door closed behind him, the buzzing excitement turned palpable. The room buzzed with fresh energy as Alex spread papers on the table. Let us make this happen. Your community's spirit is contagious. Together, we can build something powerful. Jessica felt a rush of adrenaline. This can really make a difference for Brenda, and so many others. It's bigger than we imagined. As they spoke, plans began to solidify. Over the next few hours, they mapped out ideas that ranged from awareness campaigns to financial goals. Every time Jessica would provide numbers, Alex would smile wider, leaning in closer. There was incredible synergy between them. It's not just about your fundraiser anymore, he explained. We have the opportunity to create an entire movement. To inspire change. You already have a voice. Let us amplify it. Jessica nodded, feeling a warmth spread inside her. With Alex's guidance, what started as panic over bills had morphed into a vision of possibility. Others needed this too. Later that evening, Jessica gathered her friends once more, sharing the incredible news. You guys! Alex is so passionate. He wants to help us build a network for families in need, not just for Brenda but for everyone. Applause erupted, hands raised in solidarity. Excitement rippled through the room as the small team rallied, breaking into groups to tackle aspects of the campaign. But even in the middle of all this energy, doubt crept in like smoke. What if they wouldn't find more families at their rallies? What if the funds fell short? What if the community's effort fell flat? As the launch day approached, Jessica's heart wavered. She addressed her friends, voice steady but with a twinge of anxiety. We've come so far, but I can't help but worry about the response. What if people don't care? What if we don't raise enough? Stop it, Mia replied firmly, stepping forward. Look how far you've brought us. Together, we can change lives. Remember, this is not just about money, it's about hope. Mia's words hung in the air, settling like a reassuring blanket. They all shared stories that reminded them of their importance. Launch day arrived, and the community center overflowed with families, friends, strangers who had become allies. Signs adorned the walls. People began to gather, excited chatter filling the air. Jessica felt aflame with energy, standing at the podium, looking out at a sea of eager faces. Thank you for being here. Today, we gather for more than just Brenda. This is for every child facing similar battles. The crowd erupted in applause, the warmth of camaraderie enveloping her. Alex joined her later, discussing ways to present Brenda's story to the local media. Together, the duo emphasized that they were no longer just raising funds, they were forging connections. As they spoke, the audience responded with heartfelt stories, sharing their struggles, hopes, and unwavering support. Jessica marveled at the unity. Hope wasn't just a fleeting moment, it could shape their lives. As donations poured in, Jessica's heart swelled, but amid the success, the shadow of doubt lingered like a subtle thread. Would this feeling last? As the event closed in laughter and joyous conversations, a quiet moment led Jessica to lock eyes with Brenda. She felt a rush of recognition. They were in this together, navigating the tides of uncertainty and emerging hopeful. Jessica reached for Brenda's hand. We're fighting for more than just you. We're making a difference. Brenda's eyes glimmered with gratitude and resilience. Thank you for not giving up on me. You've turned the struggle into strength. Months passed, and what had started as an isolated struggle grew into a thriving initiative, helping families through medical journeys. Their collective power shifted lives beyond recognition. Together, they became a beacon of hope for many. And then one sunny afternoon, Jessica received an unexpected message from Alex. We did it, Jessica. The foundation is officially established. Your voice carried the vision. You should be so proud. With tears in her eyes, she beamed. They had turned fear into action, changed doubt into hope, even inspired others to stand up and share their stories. Through it all, Jessica realized the essence of community, that even one voice could ignite a chorus of change. As she hugged Lily that evening, they watched the sunset pour colors across the horizon. Look at those colors, Mom. Isn't it beautiful? Jessica smiled. They had found their rainbow, brighter than ever. This was just the beginning, with one shared struggle transforming into a unified force of compassion and courage. And as the sky faded into night, Jessica felt the confidence of knowing they would continue to rise together, ready for whatever lies ahead. Now is the moment for you to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire real change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and keep these uplifting stories alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this journey, because your voice matters. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, because together, we can create a ripple of hope. Don't wait not even one more second to help others join our movement. Every action counts.